All right. Welcome in, everybody. Fifth Wolf, welcome in. It is a new month, a new day, a new week. Hope everybody's doing all right. I hope everything's good with you guys. We've got a lot to go over today that I was writing down. Realizing a lot has happened over the last week, and we can talk about it. But welcome into my weekly stream. My name's Brian. You might know me as Farron over on the forums or Discord or somewhere. And I'm the product manager of LaunchBox. For anybody that doesn't know, ED, welcome back. We definitely missed you last week. And we will hopefully have enough to talk about this week. Lots to talk about. But as always, if anybody has any questions about anything, please let me know. And we can go through it right here on stream. I have a version of LaunchBox here open. Don't ask me which version it is because I don't remember. But it is a version, if that makes sense. What has happened over the last week here in LaunchBox land? Let's do like a behind the scenes kind of thing to update you guys. We released LaunchBox 13.21. I mean, we've been talking about releasing this for like weeks on this stream. So I guess it shouldn't be quite the surprise that it came out for regular viewers. We talked about the ups and downs of what we were doing. We talked about the problems that we were having and the solutions that we put in place for those problems. And now all of that work is out into the public. We talked about the interim pieces that we have in 13.21 that are working, and we talked about the pieces that we still have to work through for 13.22. And a lot of that work can be found, a lot of known issues work can be found over on our website. I guess I should make this a bit bigger. Over on our website, feedback.launchbox.gg, where you should be able to go there. I'm realizing that for some reason I'm downloading something. That's weird. All right. Cancelled. Over here on the bug report section, you'll see some known issues that are, I guess, we would have to filter by, I guess, investigation. Are there any in review? Maybe. That's about it. Yeah, so we've got issues with like people that are having issues where their computer is waking up from sleep. This is a good kind of like walkthrough as to what the issue actually is. Turns out Windows has 7 levels of sleep that aren't all the same. So when someone says, my computer goes to sleep, then it'll wake up. Then it wakes up, and then like this prompt comes up saying that we're out of memory. That doesn't happen in every single level of sleep. So the question is like, which level of sleep do you have? And so we had to track down those things and then realized, okay, it's essentially people that are in hybrid sleep. And what hybrid sleep means is Windows will first act like it's going into hibernation. It'll like save all memory to a file and then dump that file. And then it puts you to sleep. And then the computer like goes into a sleep state like second. if that makes sense. And so the order of operations is what's causing the problem. And even the order of operations in reverse coming back awake seems to be what's causing the problem, which is why we were like, yeah, we solved it. We now can come up from sleep and we don't see a problem with this. And we're like checking all the computers, and we knew that there were certain levels of sleep, and we're checking different levels the best we can, and everything was great. And we have some solution, and we put it in. And then some people were coming back saying, hey, it's still a problem. And that's when we had to deduce, okay, which level of sleep? Yeah, right? Who's putting their computer to sleep? Yeah, and that's not something that I actually ever did before this problem came about. Maybe my laptop. My laptop goes to sleep. But by default, laptops don't go into hybrid sleep. And so the solution that we put in solved it for my laptop, but not for people going into this hybrid sleep. I don't know how you get your computer to hybrid sleep. Like as a user, like if you go into the settings and you set up some power options, I don't know what knobs and things you'd have to choose from a user's perspective to get yourself into this specific level of sleep. What I do know is how to activate that sleep now in command prompt. Now, saying all of this, the .NET framework is supposed to handle all of this stuff, right? So it's like literally some sort of bug in this .NET framework. That's the whole reason why you would use a framework, is because you don't have to ever go into the low level, like the system level code. The framework is supposed to handle that stuff for you. So because it's not, the fixes that we're putting in is sort of like workarounds for the fact that there's a bug in this framework. Yeah, I think it is available in both Windows 10 and Windows 11. It's just like not something that you would normally put your computer into. I feel like you would have to change settings to do so. So I'm not sure why so many people are getting, like, I don't know the variables in which people find themselves in this situation. We just know that it's a problem. And I know how to activate it now through a command line prompt, so you can like turn it on. It's like some command that you can type in to turn this thing on. I don't recommend doing this, by the way. And then there's another command to like activate that sleep state. And so once we figured like this out, we were able to activate it and see that the problem exists in the framework. And now that is sort of on our list to try to tackle and figure out what do we do about it. So yeah, that's a problem. There's a few other things here. The main thing that came out of this was, of course, VLC wrapper that we use. There's a lot of misinformation I'm finding every time I read like a post. I just read a post. I don't even know where I read it from somewhere, but someone's like, they solved LaunchBox by installing third-party video players. And I'm reading it thinking like, just because you installed VLC or installed like MPV or something doesn't mean LaunchBox is going to use it. Like, you literally just installed a different program that's not interacting with and people have to realize, okay, LaunchBox has a VLC included in LaunchBox, but that's not the problem. The problem is the wrapper that we have to use to render the video in LaunchBox and BigBox hasn't been updated in like a very long time. And so that comes a problem when we're trying to use a third-party set of code that we have no control over, that then the author abandons. So what we have to do is we have to find a solution. And in the interim, we have the solution that we have now, which is like, okay, hey, Windows Media Player's there. We can set that for now, make it work, stop the crashes, stop the freezes, stop the misinformation that's going around of people all grouping many problems into this one problem. They're all thinking that they're all related. All right, let's get that out of the way, and let's see what happens when VLC is no longer the problem. How many of these other problems kind of like filter away, or like the user can finally find other solutions for them? Hey, maybe, ED. I mean, it's the problem with development. For a program that's lasts for so long, the problem is always, if we're using this library that came out in 2015, is it still working or updated in 2025? And if not, now we're going to have to find a solution. So what are we doing for the next round? We're going to find a solution. Like, we're not super happy with Windows Media Player. And the process that we have to go through, it's working, it's there. We can improve it somewhat, which we will do. It'll be a viable secondary option. And so for next update, we have to look at other wrappers, whether it's VLC. We looked for VLC. There's no VLC wrappers that will do what we need it to do, or other programs. We're open to everything. We've looked at everything. We've had some suggestions from the community, and for the most part, we were already looking at them, and they all have their pros and cons, and we're gonna have to choose the one with the least amount of poison, essentially. And so that work will be happening. Josh, who is still around, even though he hasn't streamed in a while, seems like every single week he's like, Tuesday comes and he's super excited to stream, and then something comes up. Is it that you like VLC, Fifth Wolf, or do you just like what it does? Right? It's like, do we have a brand attachment, or is it, I just like the way it handles videos? Right? So it doesn't necessarily, like, our solution doesn't have to be VLC. Our solution just has to be, it needs to handle videos in the same way or better. And the problem is that it's not VLC that's actually providing that feature set. It's the wrapper that is. Right? The wrapper allows VLC to function, but the wrapper dictates a lot of the features that we get. Hey, Andrew. Welcome in. So that wrapper piece is very important, because we could take another VLC wrapper, for example, put it into Big Box, and you'll come back to me and be like, this is like the worst thing ever. Like, why is it so janky? And we're like, I don't know, it's using the exact same VLC program. We didn't even touch that. All we did was change the wrapper. And then you'll come back to me and be like, well, VLC sucks now. It's like, well, it's not VLC, is it? It's the wrapper that kind of dictates how your experience with VLC will end up being. And so that wrapper piece is extremely important on how it's going to render onto the screen, how other elements are going to interact with it, you know, how the transitions on it will take place, like all sorts of stuff, how fast things are going to be able to go, the functionality around it. Anyone that wants to create one, it's not a VLC thing, right? It's basically someone goes, hey, there's a program called VLC. I want to make that work with .NET WPF programs, which is what we are. So I need to like figure out all those bits to make it so that the videos play in WPF and render and sounds coming out and all that stuff. It's the person that's like building all the logic around playing videos, which just happen to start in VLC. So there's no official VLC support for playing videos in a WPF application. So it's all just a guy who decided to build it, essentially. And so whether we go with just straight up FFmpeg, MPV, VLC, like whatever, all those other things, we would have to find a wrapper that has the feature set that we specifically need in all the situations that we have videos. The only reason why Windows Media Player is better from a development perspective is because that's just a native element inside of .NET. There's not really, like, it's officially supported. It's always been very bad. So in .NET 9, it's not as bad, which is why we were at least comfortable enough to be like, hey, this could work as something in the meantime. Hey, maybe you might not like the results of the AI wrapper, but they could probably do something. Yes, so our current application, you're right, it doesn't. Actually, it's not entirely true, and we spent a lot of time on this. It does play the Steam videos. Sometimes, for the most part, if you just open Windows Media Player one time and like accept something, then for the most part, they suddenly just work. But here's the deal. Here's the problem. Steam feels like there's some sort of video standard, right? Steam videos. They're all Steam video. But in reality, every single video that you download from Steam can be in a different format, in a different codec, in a different everything. Steam doesn't standardize videos like, let's say, YouTube does, right? You upload a video to YouTube, YouTube will process that video and transcode it into something that they can use very specific, right? To make sure that it all works. Steam decided they're not going to go that route. And what they do is they wrap it in a container called WebM. They also wrap it in MP4 container as well. But the codec running the video and the audio, not the same between videos and between games. And so that's why I'm saying sometimes it works, right? You're going to watch a video from game 1 and it works. You're going to watch a game from game 2, it will work, but the audio codec doesn't work. You're going to watch a video from, like, there's just no standard, right? And then maybe there's a video that comes up and it's dark. So what we did was like, hey, if you just install a codec pack, then it will just work. And so the new version of LaunchBox basically asks you, hey, we can install this codec pack. It'll take a few seconds, like during the install. And we do recommend that you just hit yes. It's just better in every way that you can think of. And you just install it. And then all of a sudden, Windows Media Player doesn't have the issues of compatibility anymore. It does still have other issues, but not the compatibility problems. You could also just go and download. You can also just go and download K-Lite codec pack and install it yourself as well. What we did was we reached out to the K-Lite team, and they were gracious enough to say, like, yeah, you can include it in your installer. And so we did. Yeah. And Boomer, that's a tough question. The codecs wouldn't have frozen. The only thing we've ever seen, because the actual install, what it does is it checks 3 different things. It first checks a compatibility dependency that we should have had all along. called .NET 3.1, and it installs it if you don't have it. It's required to run LaunchBox. If you don't have it and you turn on LaunchBox, you will run into an error, which you will then try to send to us, and then we would have told you, go download .NET 3.1 Core. So that's the first thing it checks. The second thing it checks is whether I think the second thing is Klite, so then it installs Klite. And then the third thing is that it checks to see if you have Windows Media Player, and then that branches into two different sections. Either you have Windows Media Player and it's just disabled. You can actually disable it here. So like, how do you get out of your situation? Type in Windows Features into your start menu. It'll bring up this menu. Find something called Media Features, and inside of that is Windows Media Player. It could also say Legacy in there, maybe. And make sure that that's checked. If this doesn't exist, then the installer goes, hey, you don't have Windows Media Player. Let me try to download it for you. And it uses a command called DISM. And fifth wolf, there's no such thing as installing a codec or like having a codec just there inside of LaunchBox. That's not a thing. We can have another program inside of LaunchBox that launches, but you can't have a codec. The codec has to be attached to something, usually a video like Windows Media Player or another piece of software. So the only thing we could do is have like a install codec button inside of LaunchBox, but we decided against that for now. Which really doesn't change anything. Like it was on the table. It's something else that we would have to maintain. Where it's like, okay, go to Tools, Options, Videos, click on the button that says Install Klite Codec Pack or something. It's virtually the exact same option. The problem is we would have to have like 3 different options there, which, hey, maybe we will in the future. It just wasn't something that needed to happen. Right? We're hoping that you just hit the install button in the installer, and then next update, you won't ever see that window ever again, because it will run a check. That check will essentially say, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have this? The answers coming back will be like, yeah, you do. And then it'll just go by and LaunchBox comes up and you didn't even realize we did that. Anyway, so back to Boomer. Yeah, LaunchBox installing DirectX, which we no longer do now, ED, by the way. What we don't want to be is a third-party like distribution program. Like we're hoping that that's not something that we become. Can you see like people using LaunchBox to be like, yeah, download LaunchBox so that you can install. So you can go to Tools, Options, and then you can install Klite and blah blah blah, and turn on Windows Media Player, and you could do. I mean, you could do all of this yourself. Is basically what I'm about to tell Boomer. It's like for the Windows Media thing, yeah, make sure it's on. If it's not there, then you're going to type in something like DISM, which is a Microsoft program. And you're going to be like finding whatever that command is, which is, I mean, first off, you would type in, and hey, Focusborg, you type in like this command here, right? If anybody wants to find out, type that command into an elevated command prompt, and you'll see a window similar to this, which is basically Windows going, hey, here's all the things that you can install. Or here's all the packages that I have, and here's the state that they're in. Either they're installed, not present, like all this stuff. Like this is just something that Windows has. We're not doing anything special here. Right, and one of or two of them right, ED? Like we packaged everything together to make it so that you don't have to do that. All you have to do is run the setup file and you're done. Like that was the goal. And overall it works fine. This is like the troubleshooting steps that you would go through, like Boomer. I'm basically explaining what the installer does. The installer checks this, makes sure that this is checked. If this is not there, it checks this. So for people that want to know, it checks two packages. One's called Media, and one's just called Windows Media Player, which is right here, Windows Media Player. And the other one is Media Feature Pack. And for people that see a Windows Feature Pack, it means that you're on an operating system called Windows N, which is, I think, a European-specific Windows package. So if you're in Europe and you're listening to this, good chance that you're on Windows 11 Pro N or something like that, or Windows 10 Pro N. And all that really means to us, is that you don't have Windows Media Player installed. But it's like a package of software that is optional in those builds. And so you need Windows Media Player to be installed. So we would try to install Windows Feature Pack, Media Feature Pack, using this command. And that's usually when the hang up happens. That thing takes forever to install. And by forever, I mean like 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how fast your computer is. Like, it's bad. So what we tried to do is we tried to put some like silly messages in there, like that rotate while you're installing that. And so if you're sitting there, and Boomer, if you're sitting there, you're like, this thing's just frozen. It might not be. I don't think we've ever seen it freeze. What we have seen it, you might want to like look around. Sometimes you might want to look at the window. Maybe like a window is underneath it that you haven't seen. Sometimes installers have like the UAC message in the background, and you gotta like click it. We tried our best not to have that happen, and in our tests it doesn't happen. We also don't have every single computer in the world to test that, so that's a possibility. It's possible that a window had popped up and you didn't realize it on a second screen or behind another window. I've heard that from a few people until they realize that's what happened. But it won't freeze. Now this step could fail, but all the LaunchBox side of things is doing is saying, hey, run this, and then we wait for Windows to do its thing, and then Windows reports back to LaunchBox. And if Windows reports back to LaunchBox, says, well, it failed, then we like say, oh no, this failed. Like LaunchBox isn't doing anything, I guess is what I'm saying. We're just sending, we're literally sending, we're sending this command basically, which is this Windows command. And then we're saying, hey, compatibility name, and then we would write whatever's listed in this thing, which is this one here. For me, you might media feature pack isn't a thing for me. I don't have Windows 10, but maybe I don't have Windows Media Player downloaded, and so there's a package here called media.windows media player, and I can take that and put that into this name and then type that in, and that would work. Another thing is inside of just like your settings app. I don't know where it is. It might be... that's frozen. It's in optional features. So like, where's the GUI of this? I don't want to go into command line. Well, they actually have in settings. I think it's here. Yeah, here. So you click view features and you type in Windows Media Player or something. Oh, it's not here because I have it installed. But it would show up here basically on this list, and you'd be like, okay, install it. And that's how you would do it inside of the UI. That's what Windows wants you to do. They have like a guide somewhere that explains to do this. Right here is Windows Media Player, and I can like uninstall it from here and then install it back from here. Now, I don't know of a situation where you would have Windows Media Player uninstalled. We had downloaded Windows 11, different versions of Windows 11, installed it. The newest Windows 11 versions, different kinds of builds, Home, Pro, all that stuff. And they all came with Windows Media Player. So like the official versions of Windows come with it. I can only assume if you don't have Windows Media Player installed, you used some tool to get rid of it. You downloaded a version of Windows that specifically got rid of it out of its ISO file. You ran the uninstall and didn't realize. Like, there's some instances, or there's some versions of Windows that we haven't tested that we don't know about yet that doesn't come with it. Anyway, in saying all of that, yes. Anyway, those are really the two things. Boomer, if you're still there, that's what you have to do. The only third thing that you'd have to do is you could try to rerun the setup file and just see if like check the LaunchBox task thing down here, the taskbar, and see if maybe there's like some hidden window behind things that you didn't realize. Well, you thought it was frozen, but it's actually waiting for an action from you that you didn't realize was actually happening. Because I've seen a couple people say that. That might be the easiest thing for you to do instead of doing all of this stuff that I'm saying. Because the installer will just do it for you. Anyway, saying all that, we are looking into primary video playback wrappers for next release. And what I was saying maybe 20 minutes ago is that Josh is still around, and I believe that's what he wants to do. That's what he'll be doing in the next stream, which he's hoping is on Tuesday. I mean, now that it's May, he's got to be back. I don't know where he went. He just had lots of problems over the last month, but he will be streaming again. Anyway, we actually had features in that release. The main ones being that we had the media manager. Has anybody played around with this yet? gotten some badges, made your own packs. I'm like waiting for someone to make a pack. Oh, Fifth Wolf. You can build your own platform clear logo packs, or have multiple of them around. You can like here I've got this white pack, so that's why you see the clear logo here is white. But I can switch to like all of our packs, old packs are now this nostalgia pack, and you'll also have a legacy conversion pack of whatever you had before you updated. The nostalgia platform clear logo pack is the one that has like the white outline on most of the things and that sort of thing. But if you didn't want that, you could go with this one, this color one, and I can apply it to LaunchBox and still apply, let's say these white logos to Big Box if I wanted to, and have like a separation of them, but easily just sort of switch them out on the fly. And now you'll see, hey, this now has color. And look, hey, this pack has a Techno Parrot clear logo, and all these logos are like, these logos are all made by Dan Patrick. And if you don't know about these logos and what he did and who he is, and he basically recreated platform logos from scratch, all on his own by referencing. He's very good at the detail and is referencing different systems. And what he found was not every console only has one logo. And so when he went down this rabbit hole, all of a sudden he came out of it and he's like, okay, everybody, here's 5 different Sega Master System logos and, 8 different Sega Game Gear logos. And he's like going through, this is what I remade, and I made them from scratch. And you think of the Sports Center guy. And Focusborg, you spent your time trying to get high scores. How did that go in the end? So I had tasked Focusborg. This is another story. Anyway, please play around with that media thing and see if you like it. But another update that came in was basically we improved the MAME high score stuff. And so we essentially said, I think I went into it last week or something, or maybe the week before. I don't check are you a big MAME high score guy, ED? If not, you should be, is the first thing that comes to mind. And the second thing is we spent time, good. We spent time making the MAME high score process more robust for certain games. And we did it in a way that, I guess in the past, there was like some problematic games. And so all these games were added to a blacklist. Like the MAME high scores technically works for the most part at the time. This was like a very long time ago. But these games are causing problems. And so they were added to a blacklist. We don't know why they were added or what the reasons were. Like, there's no context. Just like, here's a blacklist. And so when we came back, there was some game that was having a problem. And we're like, okay, let's map out how our process works and all that stuff. And we came out thinking, okay, we can actually fix this globally by doing, this thing and making it so that so that this game works. So we made the change. That game now works fine. And we're like, okay, maybe this change fixed these other things on these blacklists. So we removed the blacklist and created like a version of the app that doesn't have this blacklist in it. And I sent it to Focusborg. Said, hey, here's like a list of games that may or may not work inside of LaunchBox MAME high scores thing. But in order to test, you need to get a high score for all these games just to see if it like is uploading or not, or whether you play the game. Maybe you play the game and like all of a sudden you have a high score for no reason, like something like that. Like there's some problem, or maybe there are no problems, and maybe play all the games and like find out which ones are working, which ones are not working, which ones have problems, what those problems are, all this stuff. And it sounds like it took one of the games. Well, it was Turf Masters. And you spent the whole time just trying to get a high score in that one game, and you couldn't do it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. No. You spent all your time playing Turf Masters, and you couldn't get a high score. Okay, I'm smiling. Sorry. And you couldn't get a high score, and we are very sorry to hear that. Very sorry. You can kind of see here that this game used to have support for MAME high scores, and now it doesn't because of whatever the reason was. It got blacklisted, and I don't know, hopefully it works. To be honest, I've never played this game. Looks like a pretty standard golf game. So ED, you think it's a good arcade golf game? That's cool. Yeah, try some of the other games. Stay away from Turf Masters. Oh man, you guys. Sounds like I should have been giving you that version of of the DLL ED. The only golf game I heavily played, like in the arcades, was why am I blanking? What's the most popular golf game? That's probably the one I played, right? Oh, let me take care of that. I think I took care of it. I just can't get rid of this window anymore. Okay. Because it's in a tiny window. I can't see your guys' chat. One second. It's so bad. Can I close this? There it is. All right. Ban the guy, and then his whole profile took the whole chat screen and was hiding the X button. Anyway, Um, you know that golf game that had the whole trackball? Hold on. Let's just filter by golf. Golf. Actually, I could probably filter by controller support. Somebody's going to tell me. There you go, Edie. Yeah, Golden Tee. There they are. It's the only ones that I heavily played. And they were fun golf games. They were known for having those, like, basically they had like a server and you can play in their tournaments across, I don't know if it was like across the world or just in a specific region or whatnot. I don't remember that detail, but I do remember participating. A different kind of game, right? Than just having buttons to press. Definitely wasn't like it was very arcadey, like not known for it to be precision like golf, which I think was the point. You had to be. Oh, but I was also not sober during those times. When I played it, because they were always in, like, you always find them in like the bars. It was like that's when you would play it. You'd just be hanging out at the bar and you just play that game there. Anyway, that was a long time ago. Hey, there was also pool and there was also darts there. There's also Golden Tee. There's always a Golden Tee, at least where I went. Anyway, that's what was in the update, I guess. Where are we here? How long have we been? We've been streaming for an hour. I'm not done the freaking Windows update. So what's next? Oh, I should say, and more. There was more stuff in the update. Check the changelog or the video. We released a video, a changelog, all sorts of stuff. In the app itself, there's a changelog. And you can see all the different changes that we did. There was quite a few. But what's next? There's actually a lot that's next that's coming up that's in the works. We last week talked about the hybrid view in Big Box, and I worked a little bit on that last week, which is always gets fun to do when I'm able to have time. I need to sit down and do that, and that will be me doing that tomorrow. I won't bore you guys with me like coding the next list like I did last week, trying to get the list to match the concept art that we have. We have a couple of bigger things that we've talked about in the past. Remember, we talked about the welcome wizard concept and what we want to see in there. That's going to come this round. We're also going to have the primary video playback wrapper / whatever playback engine, whatever that's going to be. And we're going to have, and I think I talked about this one in the past, I haven't really elaborated on it. There's going to be a retro achievement overhaul of some degree, depending on how far we can go and how much time we have. But this would include things like making retro achievements more seamless, simpler and providing better retro achievement information. Basically utilizing their API, more things in their API, which from a user standpoint could basically mean they've got like a beaten. The way that retro achievements works is that they have like a progress. So if you're a big retro achievement guy, it's not all about achievements. It's also can keep track of whether you beat a game or not. Because it has this whole like achievement track, it knows when you make, like they've developed a framework to basically know when you've completed the game that you're playing, right? Like the simplest term is, okay, you're playing Super Mario World. Oh, you beat Bowser at the very end. Boom, it can read that you beat Bowser and mark that game as beaten. Right, so it has that level of capability by reading the bytes that are going through the program and being like, oh, when this happens, this exact byte combination comes through, we know that you beat Super Mario World. And they basically have not just a framework for that, but basically like 9,000 games they've put this in, which is almost their entire catalog. And so it's been heavily done for a while, and it's been something that actually works and works well, and I've tested it. So that'll be something that'll come. It's basically like, we know when you've beaten this game, so mark it as complete or like show that the progress has happened. In the same vein, we know when you are in the middle of playing a game because you've opened it up and you've earned some achievements. So if you're like a retro achievement person, well, we know that much. And so mark games as in progress. We can do a few things that are available to us for retro achievements, and we're planning on using more and more stuff on retro achievements. So if you haven't created an account, now is the perfect time to check out what they're all about, basically, because it's really cool what they're doing in the retro scene. And there's some other small things that we're going to add as well, which if I keep talking about this stuff, I'll never get to what I actually want to do. But yeah, anybody have any other questions? As I read what I was going to talk about. Oh yeah, Android. ED, yeah. I think they have achievements like that. I mean, some achievement sets are harder than others. I've been going through trying to see, like, test my luck on things. I played through Mega Man 2. They do. I played Mega Man 2. Which Mario game are you looking at? Because that's a good... Oh, Andrew. I will get to that. All right, so this is a good idea of something else that we're going to add. Can I make this bigger? Okay. So see how there's so many achievements. I mean, you're never going to collect all these achievements unless you're like searching. You're like a pro at this game and you're searching to finish achievements here for this game. So what they did was, in order to, they have 4 levels of, I mean, let's dumb it down. They've got 2 levels. Okay, beating a game is not the same as mastering a game. And so what I mean by that is, Mastering a game means that you got all the achievements, right? And so, find and collect a magic mushroom. And so by beating a game, they've set up a framework on what does it mean to beat Super Mario Brothers. And so the way that you can find this out is that as you're scrolling down, you can see right here, there's like a little button. There's a little like badge here. And what it basically means is, hey, you've rescued the princess. And this they call it, this is a win condition achievement. And what that means is, if you rescue the princess, then we know that you've beat the game. And so we will basically say, hey, you got that? Congratulations, you've beaten the game. This is how long it took you to beat the game. It would be something like that. That's what Retro Achievements does right now. And down here, there's no other things. Literally, to beat Super Mario Brothers, you have to do that one thing. Doesn't mean you've 100%ed the game. It doesn't mean that you've gotten all the things here, right? Because some of the achievements might be, okay, beat the game a second time, beat the game a third time, right? You can keep going in that loop, and there's probably achievements all for that stuff, right? So maybe achievements for very specific levels, beating them, all the secrets and all that stuff. And so if you go to your completion process, they keep track of that. Hey, you've beaten 2 games, but you've mastered this many games. And so there's like a distinction between them that, I mean, they have compatibility for, they have the API framework for they are providing in their API, and which means we can take advantage of that. So we can tell when you've beaten a game versus mastered a game, and be able to provide you better context of that in LaunchBox. And then, of course, because you can do all of that, we can do it automatically for you if you want. We can basically say, okay, well, here are all the games that you've beaten. You don't have to click the completed button in LaunchBox anymore. We know because you have this status. And because of that, you can filter. You can search filter, which games have I beaten? Oh, this game. Which games have I mastered? Which games... let me create a playlist, a dynamic playlist. Show all the games in this playlist that I've beaten. Is there plans to pull their high score stuff? Yes. I would love to pull their high score stuff. I don't know whether it's in their API yet. I gotta ask them that. I can't remember if I asked them that already. But once it is, then on our side, the problem lies with the fact that each game, I don't think the data is going to be like the biggest problem. It depends on how we set it up. So we'd have to set it up in a smart way. The problem lies in that, so we can put it in our MAME high score framework, which is sort of like kind of the plan, somewhat. The problem is that MAME is very specific, right? One game equals one leaderboard. Retro achievements, one game doesn't equal one leaderboard. One game can have many leaderboards that are very distinctive for very specific parts of a game. And so now we have to live in a world where we now need to build out a framework to include all of this stuff. Yeah, right? And that's tough. That's probably the thing that's stopping, other than maybe it's not in their API. I don't even know yet. So step 1, check to make sure that they're actually publicly sharing this information. And 2, build out a framework to accept this information. And then 3, the final vision of all this stuff, for people that like the high score stuff, is what can we do with that information? What is exciting for people Yeah, right. I mean, even the simplest games can have many different kinds. I mean, how many? Where were we? We just on Super Mario Brothers, right? Look at how many. Every single one of these is a leaderboard. Like this game has, oh my god, 50 leaderboards. Like, that's pretty crazy. And so we somehow have to have support of that and somehow show you that and make it make sense from a user's perspective. I think that's something that they probably don't do as well as they probably could. I'm not saying we can do it any better, but like the goal for me is like, okay, now that you can see this leaderboard stuff, like now what is actually fun about it? And let's create something that's fun with all of these leaderboards. Like more than just I am on a leaderboard. And that could come with like having your own little, could be as small as, hey, start your own tournament. Say, I'm starting my own little tournament, which includes this leaderboard or this set of leaderboards. You know, join my tournament for some reason, whether you're friends or something, and then only compete in this small little window for yourself and some friends. Or you could have people running tournaments that use LaunchBox specifically. You know, so it could be that small, or it could be, let's build a socialization framework, gamifications framework that allows you to take these leaderboard standings and points and achievements and this and that and use them for other things. Maybe there's some sort of LaunchBox LaunchBox let's say, imagine like LaunchBox reward tree. And you're doing all these things. In LaunchBox, you're earning leaderboards, you're earning this, you're earning these points, you're earning these achievements, you're earning different things that you're doing in LaunchBox, and you're earning these something, some currency, some points or experience or something. And now we're saying, hey, you can go here and you can spend that on rewards. That would be really cool. Focus board. And so just like you're saying, focus board, okay, now you've got like, let's say we build out some reward framework, like system stuff that's enticing to want. And then you got to think, okay, how can we make it fun to earn these things? You got the little stick, the carrot on the stick hanging over here. Now let's make it fun doing that. And it could be something like you're saying, hey, like this week, or like you want to learn about the Sega 32X, here's a bunch of things that you can do, and if you earn all of them, we will give you 50 LaunchBox bucks or something. That's like a quest. Your quest is Sega 32X. Go. And then we can have like dailies or something where it's like, today, if you earn a high score on this arcade game, earn an extra 10 LaunchBox points. If you get into like the top 5 leaderboards by the end of the day or something. Right? And so you can keep throwing different kinds of activities that are interesting to do because, hey, there's this stick that's dangling there with a carrot that you really want to get. And hey, all this stuff that I'm doing is actually really fun, and it's making me play these games that I've maybe not have played before. And then we can do stuff like specific LaunchBox tournaments. So instead of like small tournaments that you can have yourself, maybe timed-based tournaments that you can have competing against all of the LaunchBox community. Maybe there's always a tournament happening, or multiple tournaments, and each one would provide you with specific rewards of some kind. It's getting harder and harder to use LaunchBox offline. It has never been easy to use LaunchBox offline, I must say. There's some support, but if you needed to download any kind of media, you've never been able to use LaunchBox offline. We've been giving a specific small amount of... We've been giving you all the metadata offline, which is why LaunchBox is so large of a download. It's because we want to make it an offline thing. If you run an installer and you don't have any of the dependencies on that computer, LaunchBox will install but then not work because it was unable to install the dependencies it needed to run LaunchBox. So for the most part, because of those reasons, we can be safe to assume that the percentage of people using LaunchBox offline is fairly small. And so this feature we're talking about is an online feature, and you would have to be online to use this feature. Like there'd be no way around it. If we this is all like vision board type of stuff, by the way. Don't expect to see it anytime soon. I would love to. I think how we deliver this stuff will all be optional. And there will be a very specific place that everyone will know, I got to go there to participate. And it will all be in the app. And so we could have optional notifications if you want. Hey, this event's about to start. Don't forget, but that notification isn't going out to everybody. It's only going out to the people that have opted in for this thing that has also opted in for that notification. Almost like a subscription RSS feed or something. Like you got to subscribe to that and then click the notification bell to get notified, sort of thing. 100% focus Borg. When I say the reward tree, those badges will fill up that reward tree in a great way. Yeah, one of them will 100% be get on the leaderboards of Turf Masters. The reward should be beat Focus Borg's high score on Turf Masters. And then everybody would get a badge. Oh, so ED. It doesn't have high score support yet. We were testing to see if it actually works or not. Unfortunately, we still don't know. But we will find out. We will find out. Yeah, it doesn't work in the official version. If you want to participate in this list, I can send you a DLL file that you would replace in your LaunchBox build, and it would unlock a specific subset of blacklist games that are not guaranteed to work, but that we need testing to see if they work or not. Hey, send me either a PM on Discord or a PM on the forums to remind me, and I'll send it to you sometime after this stream. Anyway, where was I? I'm still on, like, what are we doing for Android? Android is we are anticipating a release soon. Hold on. There. Soon. What does that mean? Hoping for... I think at this point, we're probably hoping for early next week. I really wanted to get it out this week, but we're struggling with DuckStation, I should say. I don't know another way to put it. And this is for you, Andrew. Before I do that, I'm now remembering you asked, what is the framework on the installer? We basically built it from WPF. At least that portion of the installer. The other installers, it's like one of the only, if not the only, popular installation programs that allow you to build installers. I don't know the name of it, unfortunately, but we've been using it forever. But that new piece, the piece that like pops up and asks if you want to install like some media elements, that was built from scratch in WPF. It depends on what you're wanting to do, ED. So if you're wanting a dedicated handheld, the one that most people have been using is the Odin. Right, Andrew? So we built it from scratch. We made the design. I went in there and like basically coded the layout. I didn't code it from scratch. I was handed like a base layout, and then I made changes to it, and we made sure that it worked okay. That's another thing that's happening in this next release. We're gonna replace our installer, is the goal, with this new WPF one. So it'll all look, the whole installer will just look new and probably be a lot more basic, which I hope is a good thing. It's like more simplistic, just like dump files here. Make sure that you run all the checks that that the other installer did. Make sure you have all the dependencies. Done. Right, Andrew? So here's what we've been struggling with on DuckStation. For the most part, unless you absolutely have to use DuckStation, I would recommend not. But if you like it and you're willing to use it, and there's like all these reasons, you're using a device where DuckStation's working better, you like the way that it's saving your save files or something, then sure. What is the problem? The problem is that it doesn't really have great front end support, and by that, like I tried to lay it out in the forum post. But let's say you're using RetroArch, for example. the way that the whole launching scenario works is like, hey, here's let's say you have a bin queue file for your PlayStation games, and so the queue file is the file that basically says this is what all the bin files are for, and this is the timing that you should be like using it. You should be loading that data. And so like, because some games have multiple bin files and like one queue file, and then so you send the queue file to the emulator, RetroArch, and RetroArch goes, okay, I'm reading the queue file. The queue file is telling me that I need to load these 5 bin files, and in this order, in this time frame. And so, you know, let me go find this bin file. It goes and finds the bin files, it loads them up, and then boom, the game starts. DuckStation has very limited, some sort of like limited framework for front ends, to the point where what we're finding is that you send the queue file goes, okay, I got to find all these bin files. It goes and tries to find the bin file, and it doesn't have permission to access it. Sometimes it doesn't even have permission to access the queue file. And so, like, how do you do it? Well, we figured out, well, this is how you have to do it. Hey, well, we've got to set these special permissions on the LaunchBox Android side to say, here's where all the files are, here's the special permissions, here's the new scope storage paths to all these files. Then on the DuckStation side, you have to tell DuckStation, here are where all my games are, this is all the permissions, like all this stuff. Like, both sides need to have those permissions granted. And then, in most cases, that interaction then can take place. But not all cases. We're currently having a problem where this is not working when files are located on an SD card. And it's not all SD cards, and it's not all situations. So it's like very strange. It's like DuckStation just continues to have these weird quirks. And like saying, if you just had one file, like just a CHD file of your game, and you were to load it, DuckStation doesn't even need scope storage. It just works. Then you throw in like the more complicated things that our front end can do, like, well, let's extract the game. Oh, my game's actually a zip file. I want you first to extract it and then load those extracted files into DuckStation. It's like, okay, well, now DuckStation needs to know about the place that we're extracting it, and like all this stuff needs to take place, and then LaunchBox needs to know where we're extracted, and DuckStation needs to know where we're extracting it, and then we've got the whole network share stuff. Okay, well, now the network share, well, the game's not even on your drive, but then we're going to download that game and we're going to put it into this one location, and now LaunchBox needs to be able to get permissions for that one location, and then DuckStation, you're going to have to go there and you're going to have to tell it where that location is located and set it in there, and then that will work. And it's like, okay, or you can not use DuckStation and it should just work, or you can use CHD files, not need to set these permissions, and it will just work. And that's been our finding. And so, like, how far down this rabbit hole do we want to go for DuckStation? And so we've gone pretty far down the rabbit hole, and we're like almost there, but at the same time, in order for us to get it to work, you guys are going to have to do a whole bunch of permission accepting on your side that we can't do for you to get that functionality to work. And I feel like I fear that even after we do all this stuff and it does work, the troubleshooting is going to be insane, right? Because it's just going to be people saying, well, this doesn't work. And then there's just going to be a level of like, here's the 10 things you have to check because it's not going to work without these things. like some sort of almost like a fax just for DuckStation if you're using a bin.q file scenario or another type that has two different files. And Admiral Nog, welcome in. Any update for Vita 3K support? That's another problematic one. So it is slated to like we're going to look for and try to find a solution in the next update. Not this one that's coming out like next week, but the one right after that. And what we're doing in this update is providing the framework that we need to hopefully have that Vita 3K support actually work. We know how it works in other front ends, and we don't like it. Like, have you ever looked into how you're going to set that up? It's like, okay, well, load all of your games into Vita 3K. Okay, we know you have to do that already. You have to download Vita 3K. You have to set it up with the BIOSes and the firmwares and all that stuff. And then you have to go and you have to load every single one of your games into Vita 3K in whatever way that you're going to do it. And you're going to make sure that all the games are working in Vita 3K. Okay, that's no front end can do anything about that step. You have to do that step. So now they work in Vita 3K. So now the step for the front end has to decide is, well, how do we now launch these games that are now only located inside of Vita 3K, the emulator? We're no longer needing to send a file to the emulator, right? There's no file to send. Like the games are just inside of the emulator now. And so that's what the front ends have tried to solve. And like at least one of the front ends that I've seen, the way that they solved it is, okay, well, go into Vita 3K, and then for every single one of the games, find out what the game ID is. It's some random string of numbers that's actually specific to that game. Now, write them all down somewhere. Now, back to the front end, go into some sort of file explorer, create text file, and name the text file. Like type out the name of that game ID and nothing else. And then do that for all of your games. I really hope you don't have 1,000 games because you're going to have to do that 1,000 times. And now that you have those, load those into the front end, import them. We're going to somehow do the matching between that hard code. Or you're going to have to tell us what each one of those games are. So you're going to be like, yeah, there are, right? Isn't that crazy? Focus work. You're going to have to do all of that work, basically like, okay, I'm adding this game. The game's called blah, blah, blah. This is the file, like this text file that I created. I want you to like use that as like the launching file, and here's all the other metadata for the game. And I'll do that 1,000 times or whatever, how many games that you have. And then now it will work. It sends the file. The file has that file name, and we're able to like send it in a way that is then using that text string of the file name to say load that game that's in Vita 3K. And we don't like that solution. We don't want you to have to do that work of like finding what that ID is and all that crap. And so the challenge to us is, how do we make it automatic for you guys? How can we basically just say, import Vita 3K, we scan Vita 3K, the emulator, see which games that you have, and now they're in LaunchBox. And so that's the task that we have on our plate for the next release. And SQHD, yeah, welcome in. You are a bit late for the stream, but to be honest, we haven't done much yet. So the hybrid view in Big Box. and welcome thanks for the follow. Random stranger. I'm glad that you're here. Let me just close this window so I can see who that was. Burly Monster, there you are. Yeah. How are you doing? Hybrid view. Hybrid view is going to be a new type of view inside a big box that's separate than all the other views that you had. On my plate is to design some of these from a themer's perspective and then build the theming documentation so that other theme developers could utilize that. Whether they are or not, I don't know, but that's on my goal. What is a hybrid view? It is, like Focusborg is saying, a view of hybrid cars, or it's actually a view that combines platform and game list together into one view. And Burly Monster, you've been around for years? Nice. But you're new to the stream. Well, let us all know how you utilize LaunchBox. What are the things that you've imported into LaunchBox, and how do you utilize it? So really, it's a hybrid view, but because it combines that platform list and game list into one view, that you don't have to load other views. You know how you go to the platform view and you go, okay, I'm going to enter into Sega Genesis, and then you enter in, and then the screen kind of changes, and then you see that change, and then you see the new view. And that view is going to be whatever that view file says it should be, and then you just keep going from there. So this specific update will basically combine those two views into one, no other view together, just those two, and it could look, it's going to be done in a way that's completely themable, so it can look any way that you want it to look. Any, like your imagination, basically it can look like whatever your imagination can think of, essentially, and how good you are at theming. And so what my job is to like give you guys some examples. So I'm going to be creating as many examples as I have time to create that specifically would probably do things slightly different than each other, so that the examples make sense, that they all exist. So maybe sometimes you have a platform list, and that platform list, you're just navigating through it, and then all of a sudden you enter into a platform, and then that list like animates away in some way, and then like the game list animates in some way, and now you're just in the game list, and just like that transition is so seamless if done well as a theme developer, that it can give you that next level of polish kind of thing. And so I don't have anything built. I attempted last stream to do like the very beginning of that view. And so if you check, I don't remember if last stream is on YouTube yet. If it is, you can check it, and it'll show you like what I was doing and how I was struggling. But what I'm hoping is that tomorrow I will dive hopefully right back into it and like complete a lot of that view. So that's what that is. There'll be like each theme will have the ability to create up to 4 hybrid views. Like all the, if you're a theme developer, then you would understand what that means, and you'll be able to like users will be able to choose from up to whatever the theme developer decides to include in their theme, basically. All right, 2 questions. Or Burly Monster, I'll do yours first. You do game management for you and the fam. Nice. So if you're saying you haven't had time to dive into the retro stuff, does that mean you're using it for like game management for different storefronts? And Admiral Nog, you said after importing DOS games, You remember how big of a pain it used to be to install and launch PC games back in the day? Yeah. Nice, Burly Monster. Which storefronts do you use? Which ones are you combining together? And what do you like about the way that LaunchBox is doing that for you? And SQHD, I remember you also asked about the Discovery. Did you ask about the Discovery Center? Yes. So what do you mean by and the Discovery view? Do you mean how does that work? Oh, you really like it. Okay. All right, good. One thing that I had to answer this question, which kind of surprised me, but somebody said like why does the Discovery view always look the same? They really should like the LaunchBox team really should allow for different looks of the Discovery view. Like that was, and then people started commenting below that comment saying like, yeah, the LaunchBox team should, like, why does it always look the same? Blah, blah, blah. And I was surprised because since day one, it's been fully themable. Anyone could go in and create their own look of the Discovery Center view. It's completely like modular, and it goes like really far on how modular it is. And we like spent all this time building out these tools of basically like, oh, you can, like, theme developers can create their own lists of games like from scratch, and like have maybe manual lists, and then maybe they can have like you can basically create your own customized dynamic playlists in there, and you can lay them out and do whatever you make it look whatever you want. Each list could have its own look if you want it to have, like, it's all there. And I had like meticulously written out this long tutorial on like how you would do it. And like what we have in the app is like what I'm doing for the hybrid view right now, which is like an example of how it can look and the features that it has in it. From a user's perspective, it's understandable that you look at that view and you think, yeah, that's what it is. That's all it is. But from a themer's perspective, man, you can really do some crazy stuff with it. And you're right, not many people have tackled it. Some people have, but not enough. And so to get rid of that perspective, so I basically had to comment and be like, it's fully themable. Here's an article on how you can theme it. And Burly Monster use GOG, Steam, Ubisoft, and more. No, that's cool. For me, I love the idea of how we combine the different games and then how we handle the management of like the installation between all of those. Because you find yourself in a situation where you end up owning the same game amongst different storefronts. Like, what do you do in that scenario? I would love someone to tackle a unified version of the Discovery View. I don't know what it would look like. How would you... What would you think that would look like? Like a miniature version of what it is now, except remember the unified view is called the unified view because every single platform has a different background, but these lists aren't platform specific. So is it going to be like one background, like a Discovery View background that's just stationary? Is it going to be someone going to sit there and create like different backgrounds for the different kinds of lists that then somehow transition as you're going through the different lists of lists. I don't know. And are people going to like what they see in the end? Or are you going to like, let's say someone created something that looks exactly like Unified. Actually, I don't even know if you could do that, because the navigation would get in the way, really. It's a list of lists where up and down switches the list that you're in, and left and right switches the game that you're selected. So you got to live in that framework. So I don't know if people are going to like the end result of a unified discovery view, but I would love to be surprised. And then some people might say I would really love like a colorful discovery center view. And what I could tell that person is, luckily, there already is one concept of it. Maybe you guys can help me. So I was sent a concept by Viking himself on what he feels. Let me just make sure I'm showing you the right ones. Like, without knowing what any of the actual, what you could actually do. So there's some things in his concept that you just can't do. But for the most part, the styling, this is what he sent me, basically, on his version of what he thinks a colorful Discovery Center should look like. It's basically this. So this is one image. This is if you scroll down to the platform list, which he did seem to want. Last added games he wanted, and I told him up front, you can add whatever list that you want. It's like fully freeform, or you can remove any list that you want. And it's like, okay, I want these ones. I want continue gaming. What did he add? I want continue playing as the first one. And then I want gaming systems as the second one. And then I want last added games as the third one. And I want it to look like this. And then I want top games to look like this. And hey, can you add like numbers there? And I went, okay, but what does top games mean to you? Is like my question. Is it like sort by star rating and just display the top star rated games? Is it take a range of games that are from like 4 to 5 stars and then randomize them every time that the list comes up? And if that's the case, do these numbers really mean anything? If you do it through sort order, then you're basically creating a list that will never change ever. It will always be these sets of games because they're always the top games in your library. And so I don't think he really answered that question. But this was his concept. And then this looks like a concept that we really can't do. But and I told him about that. But it doesn't look like he went further than that. He showed me my favorite, which looks like the same as this. And that's what he sent me. That's what, if I were to go in and design like a colorful Discovery Center, I would use these concepts to build something as close to what he is wanting, basically. Anyway, that's that. All right. Wow. We've been talking for quite a while. I had said in the notification I sent out that I wanted to talk about MAME a little bit. If there's anything someone wants to know about MAME, this is the time. So let's talk about MAME. What I wanted to do in this stream is to have like a little bit of an information dump that's just been in my mind. I've seen okay, let's answer the questions. Let's answer the elephant in the room. Retro Wizzy? When? Soon. But maybe not really soon. Kind of. We have to first like finalize some sort of design for Retro Wizzy. How much do people know about MAME that are here? Are you a MAME master? If I were to ask you a question about MAME, would you be able to answer it for me? Here's my question. Question 1. MAME is your middle name. Which kind of set do you have in your library? You have different sets depending on the PC? Explain. And Jeff Clem, you're going with non-merged? Everyone's going with the non-merged except ED's gotta throw that curveball in there and be like, non-merged, but oh, Barney. Who wants to I guess first, Barney, I'm very sorry about your predicament there. I know you didn't say that in thinking that people would be sorry. I'm glad that MAME is working. Oh no. Thank you for telling us that, creative mind. Who wants? I feel like you need an intervention, and I'll be happy to provide it for you. Any reason why you're using a version from before the beginning of time? Hey, ED. MAME doesn't even have retro achievements in RetroArch. Did you know that? Final Burn Neo is the retro achievement set. Yeah, for a while I didn't realize that. But yeah, Final Burn Neo. Anybody use Final Burn Neo? So, creative mind, what you should do then is switch it out for a Final Burn Neo set. It's more modern. It's got basically the same games, I would assume, that's in a 139 set. It's more updated. It works with retro achievements. It can be used inside of RetroArch without problems. It's a nice lightweight set. It's very small. I believe it's under 20 gigs, which is small for a set. It's got a lot of positives. Anyway. Yeah, but don't listen to me. If it's working for you, it's working for you. However, why does anybody need to update to a newer MAME set? I mean, just the fact that you're on 139, somebody's on 139 would mean that, I mean, if you're on 138 or whatever, who cares? You don't have to update that set. Updating is a very manual process. So I don't know if I want to go through all the different kinds of sets and the benefits and the downfalls of all of them. Split set seems to be the one that's left out all the time now, and I would not recommend using that set. And like all of you guys here have noticed already, a non-merge set is the way to go. But what is the one downfall to a non-merge set? Size. It's very large, isn't it? I mean, it's only been a year for you, Focusborg. That's not that long. And I think that's fine. What if I told you guys that a non-merge set is the smallest MAME arcade set you can have? And that's what I'm going to do right now to prove that I am right. How do you filter it? Let's find out. What do I mean by all this stuff? Basically, without like filtering it for games, like and narrowing it down and curating a set, let's forget about all that. Don't worry about any of that. Let's just go with like a full MAME arcade set. So completely full. I haven't left out any working games. I'm stretching the word a little bit far, but what I mean by saying it's the smallest one, it's the easiest one to get a completely full MAME set. Yeah, let's ignore CHD files. You can add them whenever you want. It's a full MAME set if you want to have a full MAME set, where you can make it, let's say under. Well, let's find out. Let's find out what it is these days. I don't have the latest one, but I'll use the one that I have, and we'll start here from scratch. So I'm just going to get rid of all this stuff, I guess. Bye. All right. Starting from scratch. So let's say you downloaded a non-merge set, and I go through the process of, I want to import an arcade set. Here it is. I don't know which one I have. I got 261. See, that's an old set. But I've got it. I'll let it download it for me. See, the LaunchBox importer is already designed to filter out any game that's, any file that 1 is not a game and 2 doesn't work. That's sort of like what it does. It's not 100% perfect because MAME flags certain games that kind of do work as not working. I'm not going to download any media just to make this faster for you guys, or download any bezels. Okay, so if you left all of this stuff default, which basically says, if we look at it, import all clones. I want all versions of the apps. I want you to prioritize the North American region. You can do any of the other regions that you like. I want to prioritize a 2-player variant over a 4-player variant. And don't bring in all of these games that I'm not going to play or that don't work. I don't care about filtering by any controller support. Let's not bring in any playlists for now. LaunchBox will basically create a subset of all arcade games that are 1 games and 2 work. And we will base it, and it bases it off of the set that you're importing. So it literally looks at, what did I import, 261 or something like that, and it goes, okay, version 261, tell me which games are working games. And that's what it basically just did, and it goes, oh, these ones. All right, import it. And so if you were using a version 270 like uFocusborg, or 276 or 277 or whatever it is right now, it would base that decision off of that specific version, which is kind of the important piece here. Then after it uses that version to dictate which games to import, it imports them. Since we're probably importing 3,000 games, probably under 3,000 games for this set, it's going to take a little bit of time. Yeah, but you don't need 3K MAME games. That is true. You can filter even further after that they've been imported. Get to a spot where you're very comfortable with the games that you have, or keep them all and just filter them through playlists, or just use the filter to filter them, whether it is searchable filters or this handy filter button. And so because you're using a non-merge set, we know that every single file, every single version of a game has a corresponding file, and LaunchBox knows about all of them. That's why we use non-merge sets. And so for people that want, let's say I wanted to curate specific games and I want to make sure that it works, well, let's do that. We can curate off of a full set. So if you're a guy that just didn't want to go with the non-merge set because of the size, well, really all I'm doing here is proving to you, well, you don't really have to worry about that if you just follow this tutorial. I guess we'll call it a loose tutorial. We're about halfway through importing these 3,000 games. How many people curate their MAME sets other than ED? There is a pretty good YouTube video out there for it. The one from the Unbroken software, which was created by RetroPython. I don't know if you're there. Let's see, is he in the chat? All right, I don't think he's here. We can talk smack about him. So the one on the YouTube channel, I basically wrote the script for him, and then he took it and made an amazing video for it. Yeah, I don't have the time to curate, and I don't trust other people to decide which games are good. Everybody's different, and same with the No Killer set from Lord Monkus was like, these are just my choices. Like, if a game that you like is not on this list, don't yell at me. And so there were I had this problem. I had set up an arcade and I didn't want to have 3,000 games on it, and I had limited space. So what did I do? I used some of the data points that we had to kind of get rid of things that I didn't want. And so maybe I'll also run those steps as well. It could be as simple as, hey, maybe get rid of any game that is below a specific star rating. Maybe I'm never going to play those. And maybe I'm never going to play these genre categories. And hey, maybe I don't have these kinds of controller sets in my arcade cabinet. So why would I even have those in this one location? And then you just very, very quick to just narrow it down that way. All right, so it imported 2,800 games. So at this point, and Focusborg, you have a full 270 merge set. How large is that set? So you downloaded the merge set. Why? Because it's the smallest size? All right, so I have every single working game in MAME right now for the set that I have. And I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to go to Tools, File Management, Export Copy of ROM Files to a new folder. And I'm just going to choose some random folder here, MAME 0.261, full MAME set. So I'm safe to assume that I have all the working games at the moment on this particular set. And I'm going to move all of those files to a different folder, which means I'm not bringing over any files that are just sitting on my hard drive that don't do anything and don't actually have any link to any of these games. that I'm playing. Because MAME set comes with a lot of games that don't work. It comes with a lot of like BIOS files and other hardware specific files and all these things that have nothing to do with arcade games or their functionality. Problem is, in a merge set, one game, one file does not mean that that game can work without other files. There are dependency files required to make a merged file game work. Sometimes is the key word. So if a file has like a specific hardware requirement that exists in another file, like a BIOS file of some kind, merge sets don't contain those files inside of the ROM file. Non-merged games do, which is why people use non-merged sets for curation like this. I mean, let's see what it's doing. All right, have a good one, Andrew. I assume. All right, it is moving files, as we can see here. There we go. So far, it's moved about 2,000 files. I mean, we're expecting that this is going to keep going until it reaches actually a lot more than 2,800 because of all the clones. But it's working. So now we're going to vote before it's done. How many files do you think I'm going to end up with in this folder? And how many gigs do you think it's going to be? Let's see who's able to guess that answer correctly to like a gigabyte. And maybe like it didn't bring over any of the interesting. Oh no, did it? Yeah. I did not realize this. But it did not bring over any of the additional files. So it did bring over only all the primary files. Which I guess it means it's a good way to do one game, one ROM sets. Let's see how many gigs this is. Anybody have a guess before I hit the properties? Just under 12. There you go, ED. A million. So a one game, one ROM set of MAME is 11.5 gigs for every single MAME game. That's the title of the YouTube video. Just under 12. 11 gig MAME full set. All right. Now, of course, the caveat is here that it's a one game, one ROM thing. So it looks like that tool doesn't bring over additional apps. So if you wanted to bring over additional apps, you would want to separate them. You'd want to like create a new LaunchBox build, import them as separate files, and then do the export. And then you would have a much larger set. Okay, but do you really need to have files that aren't even MAME files? And if your answer is yes, because there are good reasons why you want a full MAME set somewhere on your computer, and we could talk about that if you want. Those files, for example, have you ever noticed, like, when you try to play all of you Philips CDI fans, for example, I know there's many of you guys out there. Did you know that it requires a BIOS file? So for all you Link the Faces of Evil fans, did you know that BIOS file, let me see, do I even have, yeah, view dependency file? Oh my god, it requires this one as the required file. Did you know that file exists in your MAME full set? I just went into my MAME full set. Hey, there's the BIOS file for Philips CDI. Do you think it has all the other ones? Yep. How about this one? Yes. And it's not the only system that it just has BIOS files for other consoles for. It's like, if you're ever missing a BIOS file, it might be in your MAME set. So there's reasons why you would want to keep the set around for stuff like this. It also includes all of the files for Sega Model 2, Sega Model 3, Thomas Wave, all these arcade sets. Well, they take MAME files that don't work in MAME, and they build an emulator around those files and make them work. So your full MAME set, the reason why it's so large is because it contains all those files for all of those different arcade platforms. Quite a few. I missed a few even in what I was saying. Sega Naomi, Sega Naomi 2. It's all there, just sitting in your MAME folder. So there are reasons why you'd want to have that MAME folder around with everything. What you don't want is you don't want to have a merged ROM set laying around of extra files, because that's going to complicate all that stuff for you. So like you said, Focusborg, storage is cheap. Go get yourself a non-merged set. Yeah, so for all those people that were sitting there, I think we did some sort of Philips CDI video at one point, and one thing that I realized is that for some reason Philips CDI, there's like a lot of BIOS files that just don't work. I don't know why they exist. I don't know if they're fake, or if they're corrupted, or they're just from some old system or something that doesn't work with the emulator. so people were having a hard time getting it set up, and I just want to say, hey, if you have a MAME set, you already have the file you're trying to look for. Let's take a look. I mean, it doesn't have every one, but let's go through some lists. Do you think it has 3DO BIOS files? This one's a little complicated because there's so many. It does not, or at least not that one. No, I don't want to go through all of them. How about Sega's Dreamcast? It's working on it. Nope. Oh, I know why. Right. I think it's because they're all zipped up. Oops. I wanted to open that file, not apply it. What did I just do? I just like completely ruined that file. Yeah, it's because they're not unzipped. That's why. There's definitely a lot that set has. And I don't think I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Like, quit looking for these files. You have them already. Kind of video. That'd be an interesting video. Yeah, it's also ROM. Anyway, that's all I really wanted to show off. Maybe I'll show off how many of these games would I delete. Oh, if I was trying to make something that for like friends and family, I'd probably get rid of these ones. No, what am I at now? Well, that's a lot of non-rated games. Wait, why is it still there? Barney, what does the MAME ROM set DAT file do? I guess it lists all of the files that are in a MAME ROM set and probably has their hashes in them and probably a bit more information about it. As a user, you would probably use, the only real reason you'd want to use it is if you were going to load it up inside of like some sort of ROM manager of some kind. And so you would use that dat set, and the way that it worked is say, here's a bunch of files, information about files. And so it reads it, the dat file, and it parses it and lists all of the stuff that's in there. And then you go, hey, look at this folder and tell me if there's any matches based on what you're seeing. And I guess it could, depending on the ROM manager, you could take the file, it could scan those files, it could make sure that the file name matches, that the hash of the file is the same, and it gives you a report. Here's all the games that you have, and here are all the games that are in the dat file that you don't have. And then the ROM manager would allow you to action things depending on that. One of the actions that people tend to do would be something like, here's where my ROM set is. Here's another set of folder. Here's another folder with like an update MAME set. Can you do the work using these dat files to determine what the differences are and get these updated files into my folder? And after you do all that, you now went from 275 to 276, like MAME ROM set. Crusade. The auto backup feature. You hate it until you need it. Is that how it is? But I'm glad that it it saved you there. Yeah, because if you just let it run, you will have a lot of files, up to 25, of all of your data files. So I'm glad that those were able to help you. I mean, that's why they're there. And hey, for people that don't like that it adds to the time of needing to build this stuff at shutdown, what you can do is you can turn it off, and every time you make any kind of notable change into LaunchBox, then you just run it manually. So you just go here, create a backup, and then you're basically done. And anytime you make more notable changes, you can do that as well. It gives you some kind of manual power without needing to do that. But I know a lot of people just, if you're not the guy that wants to do anything manual, just let it go and forget about it. I don't know how many times people need to close LaunchBox and immediately open it back up right away. I do it all the time as a developer of this stuff, needing to test things. But as a user, I don't know how many times I would have to do that. Also, as a user, I'm the type of person that probably would turn the setting off and do it myself. But I do feel like I'm the outlier in that situation. All right. I'm going to do some testing now, but if you guys have any questions about anything, I will answer them right away, as soon as I can. What is the meaning of life? Right now, the meaning of life is to test these retro achievement changes. And as the real Sully has answered, 42 as well. All right, so what I'm going to do is let's set the stage. What are we doing here? Let's delete all the core files. Step 1, don't ever do what I just did, or you will break LaunchBox. What are we going to do? What are you going to see me do right now? So we have a branch here that essentially is going to do this. You have retro achievements, or you want retro achievements, so you download and you install LaunchBox, and you tell LaunchBox what your username and password is, and you tell us what your API key is. Right now, I think you tell us what the API key is. And the thing about the API key is that that's used for accessing the retro achievement API and being able to determine what achievements that you have. That's essentially it. And like things about your achievements. What it can't do is log you in to any emulators. So that's why when you go to an emulator, the emulator is asking for its username and password. The emulator doesn't need to display what achievements that you've earned, because those credentials can't do that. What it does need to do is allow you to earn them. So there's like username password allows you to earn achievements. API key allows you to view your achievements. So right now in this update, LaunchBox needs to do both. Is going to need to do both. This update is going to basically automatically log you in to supported emulators without you needing to do anything. So you would download, install LaunchBox, you would set it up. You'd say, yeah, I want to use retro achievements. You would create an account. If you don't have one, you would type in your username and password. You would type in your API key, and you just forget about it. Okay, and now you're going into LaunchBox and you're importing some games. So you import some Nintendo games and Sega games, like whatever, all this stuff. And you download RetroArch or Dolphin or PCSX2, and you've set it up, you've downloaded it all, and you go and you play a game. And at that moment, what we're going to do is we're going to launch the game, and we're going to say, hey, you told us that you want to earn achievements, we're going to send the token of the retro achievement token that gets generated by you having to log in to retro achievements in LaunchBox. And we're going to send that to the emulator and basically log you in to the emulator. And from step 1, you are now logged into RetroArch or logged into retro achievements in those emulators. Let's simulate that. And that's what this branch is going to do, and we're going to test that and make sure that it is all good to go. Okay, so this is what I have open. I've got Visual Studio open, and we're going to build it up. As it's doing that, you'll see that this folder will fill itself up with files. And the files will be very specific to this branch that I'm testing. And yes, Focusborg, you gotta break a few eggs, you know? You gotta break LaunchBox at least 3 times before you have something freshly baked. We are almost done. All right. While we do that, let's assume that this is a brand new build. Oops. I've done that a number of times already, so even more. By removing the data file. All right, so now that we're done, hey, I just installed LaunchBox and it's booting up for the first time. Here's a random question. Last year we did like sort of like a LaunchBox celebration. Our anniversary. I do believe we want to do something this year as well. So August is a long time away, but in order to plan it out, there's a few things that we were probably going to do before then to get everything planned out and figure out what the celebration would be. One of them that I know, I know it's already May, right? One of them that I already know that Josh wants to do, but we don't know what it would look like, is some form of celebratory, like something, where we create something that's LaunchBox related, and during the giveaway, people can buy it at cost. So we don't make any money from it. It's more for a celebration, and you have it. And so there's a discussion around like, what is that something that people might be interested in having? And so one of them, Josh really likes the idea of having an old school retro lunchbox. Because he thinks it's so funny when people call LaunchBox lunchbox. And so he wants to like create a lunchbox that's like really retro and has retro inspired items and like that's his idea. He loves that. One of my ideas is to like have basically have like sell a I don't want to say it in a technical way. Okay, so you would have some kind of cartridge, like a LaunchBox cartridge, or like a set of cartridges of some kind. Right, let's not do that. Let me turn that off. This is a brand new build, so I gotta disable that. I hate how we don't base our branches off of new versions of LaunchBox. So now I've got to go into updates and let's get rid of that. Okay. Yeah, right. ED would be like a LaunchBox logo, but then like around it, it would just look like the lunchboxes that you would have as a kid or something, and have like other details and stuff to make it look really cool. Uh, so my idea is like to have like a cartridge console type of set that would plug into your computer, and when you insert the cartridge, it opens up LaunchBox. Like some sort of novelty thing, and then like also provide other cartridges or discs or something that like we could do, and and so you would just like have like a game or whatever. You'd have like certain things that you could have. Maybe this makes sense for like a old school 5.25 floppy disk. You have like floppy disk and you'd be like, play Super Mario, and you would like insert it into like the disk drive, and it loads up Super Mario. Right. Right, so like one disk that will open up and launch LaunchBox, with the potential that you could also give you like a set of discs or something that then launches games from your LaunchBox site, uh, from your LaunchBox library. So let's play this game. Let me go to my shelf. Here you go. And then the game opens up. And so yeah, behind the scenes, like technically, this is not actually that hard of an idea. There's a company out that already has figured it out. And so it's just about the hardware. The hardware is simply just these cheap NFC chips, and they're very tiny, and you just put them on inside of the disc or whatever you're going to do, cartridge. And then you would have the NFC reader be the thingy. There you go, Zapparoo. We were talking to a company called... This was a very long time ago. I can't remember their name. I think it was called Tap2 something or other. I'm looking up Tap2 and I'm not seeing it. Oh, is that what it is? Tap2 switched to Zapparoo? Okay, so we're talking about the same thing then. So So we were talking to the person that was creating that software, and they're like, hey, this is cool, like just letting you know about our software. And so we had meetings with them, and we can make it work before the celebration, and then we can have this stuff working. Right? The original plan was, let's make this a feature, and let's make it so that anyone can do it. And Josh like talked about it on one of his early streams, and then he just never had time to follow through with it. And so having this as a celebration, it would be like a very specific celebration thing that people could buy if they want to, for just fun, like to not make any money, just to like have something really cool. And so that's my 2-cent idea, and he's got his 2-cent idea, and we've got to figure out what we want to do. Yeah, do we want to blow the cart first? Hey, we can put that in the manual. that you have to do it. There's been a lot of LaunchBox requests for different reasons. I mean, if you just want to have this whole tap to idea, after Josh actually mentioned it, saying like, oh, I don't think it would be that hard to make this. Like, I feel like I want to do this. He like said this on stream. One of the plugin developers did it. So if you just wanted that functionality, it already exists. You can go and download the plugin, get it loaded up in LaunchBox, buy your NFC sets and stuff, chips off of Amazon or something, and you can make it work today if you want. So it's available. This would probably integrate it a little more, and it would, like, the way that it would have to work is that we would have to, like, these NFC chips are like a dime a dozen, basically. And so, but they're also like one-time use. So you have to program it, and then that chip is like programmed once and you can't reprogram it. There's no like rewriting NFC chips. Maybe there is, and it's just more expensive. But usually they're just like one-time dealies. Yeah, I assume that they would have rewritable ones, but more expensive. That tracks. And so they have to be mapped to something that's specific to your library. And so that's the question. What is that data point that could potentially be mapped to, like, on a global scale? Everybody's library has a specific game, and that game has this data point attached to it for everybody. And the only thing that we kind of have is the game's database ID. So we're kind of behind the scenes doing a lot of work on the game's database to try and make that game's database ID permanent. So right now, it's not always permanent. The community has a lot more control over what that game's database ID, how permanent it is. They can get rid of it if they wanted to, and we don't like that. We want it to be more permanent, so we're working on a way to make it more permanent. Other things that we're doing in the background at the same time as all this. Anyway, so I just imported some stuff. It looks like I had games inside of the LaunchBox games folder, and it imported that as well. So let's take a look. Is there anything here? I believe these have some stuff. I'm going to do this off screen. Actually, no, I don't have to do that here. Okay. Before release, we're going to revamp this window. Right now, it looks like this, where it has username, password, API key. Okay. So I'm going to dump that stuff off screen here, if I can find my information. All right, so I'm signed in, and where's my API key? Okay. We're good. All right, ED. That's cool. Yeah, that you remember them when you're looking for the amiibos. Anyway, so Barney, you would want a LaunchBox mug to put at your desk. That's cool. That's definitely doable. Launch the LaunchBox app on Android. That's probably doable. I think it's the other way around that's probably doable. Right? It's like have Android be an NFC thing that can launch games on Windows or something. This probably makes more sense. I don't know if you can send an NFC command and like have it. I guess you should be able to. The phone would have to have NFC support. Okay, so I logged in. I'm going to run an achievement scan on this now that I have logged into the API. So NFC can be used to launch apps, so that's good to know. What games are these? What did I import? Oh, I see. That is quite loud, isn't it? At least on my end it is. Okay. I should probably turn on the badges. There we go. Ooh, okay. Is this thing in this branch? It is. Okay. I don't like those badges anymore. Let's switch to the white ones. My eyes are used to the white ones. Oh, wonderful. We're on an old branch where that feature is not fully implemented. Okay. Edie, you haven't had an NFC enabled phone in a while? Yeah, I guess that kind of sucks. Focusborg, have a good evening. Yeah, we're about to wrap up soon. I'm going to do 2 more tests before we go. One is, can I take the credentials that I put into LaunchBox and see if this game has support. Let's download RetroArch. Let's do that. We're downloading a fresh copy of RetroArch. We're going to play the game and see if I'm all of a sudden logged into Retro Achievements. Do I have any achievements on this game? Look at that, I don't. What do I have to do? I have to clear all of Phase 1. I don't even know if I can do that in this game. Alright, it's installed. Let's see if I've got retro achievements somewhere. There you go. I am signed in. It works. I mean, I've I've got to make sure it works, right? Oh my god. This is not a game that plays around. I have never played this game before. I probably should have. Can I just beat this first phase? Ooh. Well, at least I submitted a score. Which means that it works. Okay, so it works. We've got two other kinds of I think it's just Dolphin and PCSX2 that we support also have retro achievement support. So let's make sure that those work. We'll import a few GameCube games. Tell it to install Dolphin. It's installing Dolphin now. So here we are. So let's do a achievement scan. This one's really slow because the way that the achievement scan has to work right now is it uses a Dolphin tool, I think called Dolphin Tools, that's created by Dolphin, or at least is in the Dolphin download. And that tool isn't the fastest tool. I mean, the action it needs to do to get the correct hash is not super fast. I mean, it's to do one game is fast. It's like 0.3 seconds or something. Then have 500 games, and this is how long it takes. So the scan uses your API key to determine which games have achievements, and your API key is used to show you your achievements. The username and password is used specifically and only to log into retro achievements in these emulators. Okay. Did that even work? Doesn't look like it did. What version of LaunchBox is this part of? Anyway, forget about that. If I play Dolphin, which I assume is there, it should tell me that it's logged in. Okay, there you go. So it's saying that this game has no achievements. Hardcore mode is on, and the leaderboards is on. Well, at least we know it works. All right, last one. PCSX2. Oh yeah, the BIOS. I'll worry about that later. All right, so LaunchBox. Oops. It's downloading PCSX2. It's going to run the setup. This is where I'll drop the BIOS files in. Cool. And I don't have to do this step or this step. All right, I guess I don't really have to do this step, but it would be nice to know. Yeah, this is slightly faster. Okay. Let's see if I'm suddenly logged in. All right, so I didn't get a login message. So let's write that down. So if I was to do this, I would basically say so retro achievements, credentials branch. I would say RetroArch, great. Dolphin, great. PCSX2. Get play. Let's try again. Same game. Maybe the overlay doesn't exist. Though I was pretty sure they had an overlay to say that you're signed in. Let's check the emulator. I am not signed in. Let me check which branch I'm on. Well, I didn't fetch 3 minutes ago. PCSX2 now injects credentials as well. All right, so it should be working. Nothing special about this one. Okay, try this game one more time, and then try another game. Not that it should really make a difference. No. The overlay is on, but no achievements login. All right. And that is why we run the test. We'll have to do testing later, but basically it's not working. Yeah, that's right, not working for now. And we'll figure that out later. So the end goal is there's going to be a huge retro achievement overhaul that does a number of things, and this is one of the things that we're going to do. Other things include just more, I probably wrote it down, but just to recap, providing more retro achievement information up front, more filter capabilities, playlist capabilities, and yeah, that's basically what we're going to do. And that includes a whole bunch of things that we will have in the app, most notably the ability to tell when you beat a game. Anyway, that is all the time that I have for this week. So thanks for sticking around, everybody. And we'll be back next Thursday. I hope you have a good weekend. Happy May. May the 4th be with you and all that stuff that's going to probably happen, I guess, on Sunday. Hope you have a good weekend and that you can play some games and play the game of LaunchBox. So until next week, we'll see you guys later. Yeah, take care, everybody.